I know, I'm a week late to the party, but I did actually need some time to get my thoughts together for this video. Before we go any further, I've got a bit of housekeeping for this video. I hold the first Mission Impossible movie up as one of the greatest spy thrillers of all time. It succeeds on every level, from plot to pacing to action. And even its cast, which can be a sticking point in movies like this, is absolutely flawless. It is also, at least to my mind, the only spy thriller in this movie franchise. Since the release of Mission Impossible 2 all the way back in 2000, I have considered these movies to be firmly in the realm of action, prioritizing huge stunts and slick vibes over a tight script and slow-burning tension. Thus, they cannot be judged by the same criteria that I would apply to a spy thriller. This isn't to say that I'm lowering my standards per se. It's just that those standards are very different between the two genres. For reference, I hold the James Bond franchise to basically the same criteria. So no, I'm not going to be lambasting this movie for its ridiculous plot, or its bloated cast, or even its jaw-dropping 3-hour runtime. Rather, I want to see if we can clean up this movie within the framework in which it exists, that of an action movie. Everyone on board? Good. Let's get it started. One of the notes that I made several times as I watched this movie was that the characters kept explaining the plot over and over again. Whether it's Ethan Hunt speaking to the president about the world's nuclear arsenal, or Gabriel explaining to Ethan that it's his fault that all this is happening, all the various MacGuffins and plot threads were reiterated ad nauseum. Now, I won't lie to you. There were certain points in this movie that I felt like I needed that kind of reiteration. But the fact that it's there, and it had to be there, is not a good thing. That speaks to a level of bloat that should not be present in an action movie like this. I shouldn't have to be told for the umpteenth time that Luther's poison pill needs to be installed into a drive, which is at the bottom of the ocean, which then needs to be linked to a server, which has to have a flash drive plugged into it so that it
ate the cat that killed the rat that lived in the house that Fraser built.
You see where I'm going with this? It's just too much. And at a certain point, having it explained to me began to actively inhibit me from enjoying the movie. Unfortunately, this is not an easy fix. Without some deep structural changes to the plot, such as the full removal of not only Luther's poison pill thing, but also the president's storyline, you're kind of stuck. The way they've stacked this teetering Jenga tower of plot threads and MacGuffins necessitates these constant moments of reiteration, since nothing in this movie can progress without anything else. If you look at it critically, it's actually quite fascinating how the writers created this knot that can only be disentangled by the addition of another plot beat or quest item. Alongside this issue is the constant artificial raising of stakes that this movie seems to think it needs. We, the audience, are already staring down the barrel of a global thermonuclear apocalypse. We don't need a whole scene about how they only have a millisecond window to unplug the flash drive. A perfect example of what I'm talking about is the whole submarine sequence. From the moment Ethan Hunt boards the US Navy submarine, to the moment that he's revived in the portable hyperbaric chamber, which, come on, really? There are 3 points where the movie tries to create unnecessary tension in the audience. The entire explanation of the gear Ethan will be using in his descent, his fight with the Navy diver, and his eventual revival in the inflatable hyperbaric chamber. Which, again, really? First up, we're treated to about 3 minutes worth of background on the tech Ethan will have to use if he wants to get down to the Russian sub, the Sevastopol. We're shown the suit, told about the bends, and it's even explained how Ethan will have to breathe as he surfaces. It's a bit in-depth, but I'll forgive it since it adds just a touch of realism. At least that is until all of it is thrown out the damn window at the back half of the sequence. None of this exposition has even the slightest impact on the story moving forward, because Ethan ends up ditching all of this gear that he supposedly needs just so he can get back to the surface. Next, we've got Ethan's fight with the Navy diver. I'll be honest here, I still have no idea why this scene exists. I don't know if the guy has a personal bone to pick with Ethan, I don't know if he's an agent for the entity, I don't even know if he's just having a bad day and was looking for someone to take it out on. The only reason I can see for this fight to exist is simply so they could add another scene where Ethan's life is supposedly in danger. It's the definition of bloat, and could have easily been removed so the pacing didn't get dragged to a screeching halt. Lastly, we come to Ethan's time in the hyperbaric chamber with Haley Atwell's Grace. Don't get me wrong, the pair have good chemistry, and if they had actually gotten together in the end, I would have bought it. But, given the metaphorical blue balls the movie wraps this little plot beat with, It now serves no purpose beyond once again artificially ratcheting tension and padding the runtime. Save the longing looks, keep the movie pressing forward, and wrap this generation-long series up. One of the final bones I've got to pick with this movie, and Dead Reckoning if I'm honest, is how the writers felt they had to tie everything up in a nice little bow. A bow which they clearly made by retconning the other movies in the series to fit their narrative. Don't get me wrong, I'm completely fine with third act reveals, and they can be some of the best moments of whatever film they're in. My problem is that if you don't start your story with these reveals in mind, then try to shoehorn them in at the very end, it's usually pretty damn clear that that's what you're doing. An example of what I'm talking about is the use of the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3. In its original incarnation, this MacGuffin served as a bargaining chip for Ethan to get his wife back from Philip Seymour Hoffman's Owen Davian. We're not told what it is, and are only shown that it has a biohazard symbol on its casing. This MacGuffin's only purpose is to be, as I've said, a bargaining chip. It doesn't matter what's inside it, only that it gets where it needs to go. The third movie understood this, and as such, what's inside of it is glossed over. By bringing this MacGuffin back 4 movies after its first appearance, you're trying to draw lines where no line should be, or need to be for that matter. Your narrative already stands on its own 2 feet. You don't need to call back to previous films just for a little memberberry. The movie Spectre and the Daniel Craig James Bond series tried to do a similar thing, by making the Quantum Organization, who had been the big bads up until that point, simply an arm of Spectre, another organization who had never even been mentioned until that point. Finally, we come to Gabriel, the villain of the duology, played by Esai Morales. Taken in isolation and using only his characterization in Dead Reckoning, Gabriel is a terrifying villain. He's a man with no identifiable past, with skills that match or exceed Hunt's, that is calmly and utterly committed to the entity's goal of global destruction. That's all you needed. He would have gone down as one of, if not the greatest villains in the series. Instead, the writers tried to somehow link him to Hunt's past before he was an IMF agent. A link that I'm still shaky on. Honestly, let me know in the comments if I missed something. But all I got out of the flashbacks were shown is that Gabriel murdered some woman that was important to Hunt. I don't know if she was his sister, his lover, or just a friend. I also don't know why it was Gabriel that committed the murder. Why would these 2 characters have had any reason to meet if Ethan was not an intelligence agent at that point in his life? Anyway, by clumsily drawing this line, you've actually removed a big part of what made Gabriel so intimidating. That reason being that he has no past that anyone can find. Taken strictly as an action movie, you can do a hell of a lot worse than The Final Reckoning. I was actually left breathless as Ethan tried to negotiate his way through the submarine, and I have never seen anything like those plane stunts before. The acting is good across the board, shout out to Nick Offerman, always a pleasure to see him, and the camera work is consistently slick. My problem with Final Reckoning is that they tried to make it more than what it is. If they had kept it at a tight 2 hours, cut out all the stake raising, and kept its story in isolation, it would have gone down as the best action movie of the series. Tom Cruise is one of the last true action heroes, and this movie shows that in spades. But as it stands, all I could think about when the credits rolled was how badly I needed to pee. Anyway, that's all I've got for you this time, so if you could do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe buttons, I'd really appreciate it. Every little bit really helps me out. Also, go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel, or hit up my website to see my blog, and maybe buy one of my books on Amazon. I've actually just released one. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. I would actually like a counter on how many times they said poison pill. I really would.